Today I have brought to Parliament and given Parliament, and the private members bill is the Declaration of Assets and Liabilities, an amendment. And it's an amendment to the Declaration of Assets and Liabilities law of 1975. The situation in 1975 in terms of corruption in this country and the situation on corruption today, I'm sure the older generation knows, is vastly different. The situation then and the situation today. And therefore, I have brought this private members bill to Parliament. I brought it also as we have a new president, Ranil Wickramaratne, who made a policy statement in Parliament recently. And in his policy statement in Parliament, Ranil Wickramaratne said, and I shall read it, he said it is essential to completely eliminate bribery and corruption and fraud from our society. I will implement a national policy to combat bribery and corruption. New rules, regulations, and orders in this regard are being prepared by the Ministry of Justice. A consensus will be reached with the International Monetary Fund regarding the combating of corruption. And therefore, I must laud the new president for making such a statement. And now I am calling upon him to actually implement the statement. It's for the first time that we, in our discussions with the International Monetary Fund, and I have been personally involved in those discussions in the past, when in 2017 and 18, when I was State Minister of Finance, for the first time, it has now appeared that corruption has become an issue and highlighted, even in the discussions between the officials of the IMF and the government of Sri Lanka at the preliminary stages. It's also for the first time that the United Nations Human Rights Commission, which meets biannually, and it examines the human rights violations in various countries of the world. For the past 2 decades, Sri Lanka has been always, in every session, virtually being identified, and there have been resolutions against Sri Lanka. These resolutions have largely been confined to the area of human rights violations. But for the first time, economic crimes have also been highlighted in these violations. For the first time, this has happened. It shows how grave the issue of corruption in this country is. In keeping with the President's policy statement, I decided to bring in a private member's bill to Parliament to combat corruption. We need to combat corruption, and we need to take it seriously. And its bill, firstly, it seeks to remove the archaic secrecy provisions of the Act. Members of Parliament like ourselves, we give our statements to the Speaker of the House. If you're a cabinet minister, you give it to the President. And I don't know why that difference is there. I think it was really a distortion, something which was really done with the wrong ulterior motives. Everybody should have been declaring it to the Speaker of the House. So the President, who is executive, keeps the cabinet minister's assets declarations in his pocket, almost like having a resignation letter. So they are beholden to him. That shouldn't be the case. So this bill seeks to basically, it works on the principle of maximum disclosure. We have been talking about the right to information. We have a bill in this country. So it's talking about the same principle of maximum disclosure. So this bill is being presented. And therefore, the person who is making the declaration is also protected because proper privacy is being followed in line with international norms on asset declaration transparency. Secondly, in this bill, I am requesting in this bill that when somebody is seeking for nominations, that they have to give the asset declarations with the nominations. It has to be given. We know that there was an Aragale or a protest in this country, and during that Aragale and the protest, what were the protesters talking about? They were talking about having clean, ethical people as public representatives. And asset declarations becomes a vital part of that. And therefore, the public representatives and officials must provide declarations of their wealth so that it increases transparency when they are putting their nomination papers, unlike today, that you are given a period after the election in which to basically give it, which is useless. because the voter doesn't have the benefit of having that information. So they need to give it along with their nominations. Thirdly, when this declaration of assets was considered, the president was exempt from it. This bill seeks to make the president accountable too. So the president is on the list of people for whom this bill actually applies. And fourthly, when this is given, as I said, it's given to the Speaker and the President, this bill says no, we should give it into an independent commission, to the Anti-Bribery and Corruption Commission. We can give it online as well, you see, because technology will help to discover quickly when there are discrepancies. So this has never been done before, giving it to an independent commission. This bill, Seerbock needs to be able to then independently verify the asset declaration, and the processes could be streamlined. This will not allow officials or politicians to secretly amass amounts of wealth when they come into public office. It will minimize that possibility. Fifthly, right, this bill also creates the avenue for stolen assets recovery. It opens the door for pursuing stolen assets. We know that the United Nations has a program. Sri Lanka has not adopted that program, but this bill opens the door for stolen assets recovery. Therefore, implementing this, there are two important things. Laws are important. There's no question about it. You go through the traffic light, it's red color. You've broken the law. That's because there is a law, you've broken the law. The policeman stops you, you give him your driving license, he gives you a ticket and tells you to go and pay the fine and carry on. Another policeman stops you, you give him some currency note with your driving license. He takes the currency and he waves you and says, get on with your work. You are not really paying a penalty. That's the application of the law. So the law is essential, no question, and this bill seeks to bring the law and the framework that is necessary in eliminating or at least minimizing corruption. But the application of the law depends on the institutions. There are three institutions that are critical in this. One institution that is critical in this is the police, and therefore there will have to be changes that are done to assist in the recovery of assets. Then the next institution that needs to be looked at is the Anti-Corruption Commission, Seerbock, because it needs a set of skills. Currently, it largely receives its investigators from the police department. That's not good enough. It needs skills in finance, it needs skills in accounting, it needs skills in the economy, it needs legal skills, it needs forensic skills, and therefore Seerbock needs to be made independent so that recruit the skills that are needed for investigation. And the third institution that will have to be looked at is currently the prosecution is done by the Attorney General. The Attorney General is the lawyer for the government. I'm a minister today, they advise me. I steal tomorrow, and day after they have to take me to the courts. A conflict of interest, the same party advising me having to take me to courts. Therefore, this has to be looked at and implemented. We need an independent public prosecutor. That's the third institution that needs to be looked at in actually bringing to book those politicians and officials who have actually robbed. So this is really the next important thing, the law and then reform of the institutions. And finally, I would say this. If you want to change a country, example is even more important than law itself. We know this from all our religious leaders, right? They didn't imprint law, but they lived by example. Billions follow them. Example is more important. And therefore, I am saying, while the law is being changed, while the institutions are being reformed, I am calling upon the current president, Ranil Wickramaratne, who made the policy statement. I'm calling upon past presidents, Mahinda Rajapaksa, Maithripala Sirisena. I'm calling upon the Prime Minister and past Prime Ministers. I'm calling upon cabinet ministers and past cabinet ministers. I have never been a cabinet minister, and therefore I have only been a state minister. And therefore I'm making a request from all of them. I'm saying to all of them, voluntarily make your asset declaration public. If you voluntarily make it public, you are setting the example. That will be more powerful than the change in law itself. This country needs a change. That is why people protested. Let's do what we all can do collectively to make a difference for a new Sri Lanka.